How many of you find it easy to be still and let God love you? Anybody? How many of you find it easy to relax and let God take over? We're going to be talking about that a lot this month. Our theme for May is living in the question. This is all about not having that strong need to control everything and to actually be in the situation that's in and look for what's available to us in that. My talk title for today is Embracing the Mystery, but as I was working with it this week, it was really all about the questions. Everything was about the questions that we have. And in fact, it was really funny. Yesterday, Judy came and told me that the reading in the Science of Mind magazine was, what if the question is the answer? What if the question is the answer? Yeah, can you imagine? So I've been working with some concepts around questions and the quality of the questions that we ask in our lives. One of the people that I study is Joel Goldsmith, and he says this, and I couldn't find which book it's in, but it might be from one of his tape lectures that I've listened to, but he says that the quality of our life is determined by the quality of questions that we ask. So we ask questions from the state of consciousness that we are in the moment, in the situation. And so how many of you have ever asked a question like, why is this happening to me? It's a lot different than asking some of the other questions that we can ask in our lives. So there's this concept that Ernest talks about us being on this ever upward spiral of evolution, that our consciousness is constantly moving upward. And so we revisit situations, but we revisit them at a higher level of consciousness. I really like that idea, that we were constantly moving. And even if I have to face the same challenge again, I'm a little bit more advanced than that. How many of you have seen this graphic? I tried to find it yesterday, but couldn't online. But I've seen it on Facebook a lot of times where it's one person's path of spiritual evolution, and it's going just like this, perfectly, right? And then there's my path of spiritual evolution, which is like this. That's what I think of spiritual evolution as. It's not this perfect spiral where we always are moving upward. I think of it more as 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Because we constantly revisit things, and wherever we are and how we react to that situation determines how we're going to respond to it in what level of consciousness we're going to be responding to it in. So the questions that we ask are based on our level of consciousness that we're experiencing right now. So this whole thing with the level of consciousness, in our movement, we talk about 4 stages of spiritual development. This idea, I first found it in the work of Joel Goldsmith. And he was doing his writings in the 40s and 50s. A lot of it's based on the Bible, but it's also based on other spiritual texts. And so I found this idea in there. He didn't name them, the stages, and he didn't say there were 4 stages, but you could definitely see the pattern of it moving through his writing as he was doing it. Then I was taking classes here at our center. I took a class called Financial Freedom. And in Financial Freedom, it's based on the work of Marcia Sutton and Lloyd Strom. And they developed this body of work called Fear to Faith. And in the Fear to Faith body of work, they actually labeled these 4 stages of spiritual consciousness. They called them the to me, by me, through me, and as me stages. And then Michael Beckwith, a few years later, is doing his work on visioning and writing his visioning book and workshops and so forth. And he actually gave them these names: the victim consciousness, which everybody loves that name, right? Manifestor consciousness, channel consciousness, and unitive consciousness, or oneness. And so it doesn't matter really what you call them, but these are the stages that we move through throughout our lives. Now, it would be lovely to say, I have mastered victim consciousness and I am never going to experience it again. But it doesn't happen that way. This morning as I'm driving in on the freeway, I was on I-15, I went through all 4 stages of spiritual development. I'm driving along, and I love I-15 on Sunday mornings. It is a fabulous thing to drive on Sunday mornings. There's not usually much traffic, and people are pretty mellow, Sunday drivers. We're out having our thing, doing our thing. And this guy comes whipping around, right? I see him in the rear view mirror, and he's whipping in and out of the traffic, moving back and forth. I shouldn't say guy. I really don't know what it was. They works for me. Could have been a man, a woman, I don't know. Because they were going so fast, I couldn't tell. Anyway, they whip in front of me, and I have to slam on my brakes. And in that moment, I hit that first stage of spiritual development. Why is this guy doing this to me? Why is he cutting me off? Why is this happening? And then I quickly went into, well, he must be in a hurry. He must have something to get to. Must be something on his mind. I'm just going to bless him on his way. Okay, got through that second stage of spiritual development. And then I went into, well, let's be grateful that I am moving through this and I didn't have it. It was no incident. I just had to hit my brakes. No problem. No worries at all. And then that was third stage of spiritual development. And then the last stage is I simply went back to something that passes through my head a lot. God is the mind of every driver on the road. God is the mind of the person in that car. So I know that everything is unfolding perfectly. All 4 stages of spiritual development in less than 1 minute. That's how it can happen in our lives. We can't get into a place where we're judging ourselves on being in a victim consciousness. We just need to recognize it and move out of it as fast as we possibly can. But the questions that we ask when we are in victim consciousness tell a lot about how we're experiencing it. They're very key to telling us that we're in victim consciousness. As I used before, why is this happening to me? Here's a few others. Why me? Oh God, why me? What did I do wrong? And I love this one. You might have heard it every once in a while. What did I do to cause that or create that? These are questions that will keep us stuck in that place. Can you feel the energy of those questions? Why is this happening to me? Just think of that as that energy that's involved in there. That is a very low level of consciousness energy. There is nothing empowering about why is this happening to me. There really isn't anything empowering about what did I do to create this either, although we think there is. As we are working with these questions, and as soon as we recognize that we are in that place, we can begin to move out of victim consciousness. And the way that we do that is first by engaging in self-assessment. What's going on here for me? What is going on? What's my part in this? We become conscious of the places within us where I feel like I'm being victimized. Because generally speaking, if I'm asking that kind of question, it's triggered an old feeling in me. It's triggered something that I might need to work on and heal a little bit in my life. So I look at the places where I felt victimized before and see how there's related to this situation. The next thing that we have to do is we have to give up blame. We can't blame the other person, and more importantly, we can't blame ourselves. It is what it is. It happened, we move on. We learn from it and we grow from it. And then the third thing, which everybody's favorite, practice forgiveness as a way of life. If you are blaming yourself, if you feel like you've done something wrong, forgive yourself. If you can make forgiveness your instant response to that victim consciousness feeling, your life is going to change dramatically and quickly. And then the last thing we do is we ask quality questions. Remember, the quality of our questions determines the quality of our life. So, I had a slide on that one, okay. Sorry. So in the manifestor consciousness, the by me stage, this is where we're making things happen. And this is where we can ask those really good quality questions. What is here for me to know? I've experienced this situation. What is here for me to know in it? What do I need to shift within myself, within my consciousness, within my thinking to change this situation? How am I called to grow from it? Something has happened, it's occurred in my life. Where is my next level of evolution in this situation? And most importantly, what do I need to forgive? Forgiveness will take you out of that victim consciousness into that manifestor consciousness. I remember reading Desmond Tutu and his wife Info's book on the Book of Forgiving. And the transformation that happened in people's lives when they learned how to forgive themselves and when they had a place to identify people that they could then forgive was shocking to me. It was such a powerful example. He talks a lot about the apartheid in South Africa and the Reconciliation Commission that he chaired there and the work that they did, where people had to come up and tell their story. The people that had been the abusers came up and told their story, and the people who had been victims came and told their story. And it gave both sides a place to heal. Because even if they were the abusers, there was something that needed to heal within them. One of the most powerful stories in there is about a little girl. She and her brother watched people beat their father and then set him on fire. And, I can't imagine anything more horrific than to be a child and watch that happen. And she's standing in front of the Reconciliation Commission and she says, I need to know who did this. I need to know this because I need to know who to forgive. It wasn't who to blame, but she needed to know who to forgive so that she could move on, so that she could heal that part of herself. Talk about moving from a victim consciousness into an empowered consciousness. To simply move through that act that way. Powerful book. I highly recommend that you read it if you want to. So, what is the energy of these questions? Think about that as you say those questions yourself. What do I need to know in this situation? Feels a lot better than, why is this happening to me? How am I called to grow? Feels a lot better than, why did they do this to me? As we begin to shift those questions, we begin to uplift our consciousness, uplevel our consciousness. Now, to move into the channel consciousness, we begin to have those experiences where we are feeling spirit moving through us. In the manifestor consciousness, we're making things happen. When I ask these questions, what's here for me to know, I get an answer, and that gives me a place to take action. And so I can begin to change my life by asking those kind of questions. When I forgive somebody, I take action, and I begin to release the stuff that's holding me back through the process of forgiveness. But when we go into the channel consciousness, again, it's more about allowing spirit to flow through us. I need to be still and let God love me. I need to be still and let it move through me. I need to relax and let God take over. That's channel consciousness. There's a powerful good in the universe, and it uses me. And it's moving through me, and it's showing up as me in everything that I am and everything that I do. And so the questions that we ask there have to do with releasing things. As Beckwith says, and I've said this lots of times, all spiritual growth is about letting go. We are 100% spirit right now. We just need to let go of the things that block that idea from us. We need to let go of the limiting beliefs. We need to let go of the things that have held us back. The ideas of lack and limitation or unworthiness that have held us back. Let that stuff go. Just let it go. And then the next thing that we need to do is begin to practice gratitude. Where do I need to give thanks? What do I need to give thanks for? What am I grateful for that's happening in this situation? If you have something happen to you, and everybody has things that happen. As I said, this, within 1 minute of driving here, something happened. And when I look at it from a point of view of something happening to me as a victim, I can't get out of it until I move from that place of consciousness into a higher level. And so when I do that, then I can begin to open up to what's available to me. And then I can be grateful for it. Grateful for the insight. Grateful for the realization. Grateful for what's happening in my life right now. And beginning to focus my attention on gratitude is a powerful way to begin to do that. We're already pure spirit. We're already pure spirit. And we don't need to add anything to us. We just need to let go of the things that are blocking that view from us. So the last one, unitive consciousness questions. We don't have any. In unitive consciousness, we are one. The question is answered the moment it's given. What if the question is the answer? In unitive consciousness, there is nothing for us to know. We are totally at one with spirit. Now, I have to say that for most of us, the unitive consciousness is very brief. We have glimpses of it. For me, it usually happens in meditation or in a place where I've gotten myself really still and I can feel that presence and I feel one with it. I have the feeling of the boundaries of my body dissolving, and I'm merging in with spirit. Things like that happen. Great insight comes to me when I'm in that unitive consciousness, but they're very brief for me. I think even the masters, Joe Goldsmith, used to sit in meditation for 10 to 12 hours a day, but he said that he had 4 or 5 seconds of connection with spirit, 4 or 5 seconds at a time. And if he could expand it to 10 seconds, he was overjoyed. So those moments for unitive consciousness are very brief, and they're so powerful. They are life-transformative moments when they happen in our lives. In unitive consciousness, all of the answers are known before your question is even formed. So there aren't any questions that you need to ask. So this is from Michael Beckwith's audio series. He had this before he wrote his book on life visioning. He had this wonderful audio series, and I listened to the whole thing and took notes. And he said, asking quality questions will keep us moving in the direction of spiritual discernment and embodiment of spiritual truth. As we begin to change the kind of questions that we ask, we begin to uplift our consciousness, and it moves us forward on that upward spiral of evolution, as Ernest said. This is really our key work in life, is to begin to shift from one level of consciousness to the other. And again, doing this through our questioning is a really powerful way that we can begin to eliminate a lot of those things. If we ask really good quality questions, we can get to the root of those hidden beliefs, those ideas of lack and limitation and things that have held us back for many, many years, if we ask the quality questions. But if we sit in that place of being a victim to it, then we don't move out of that. And so as we are on our path of ever spiraling upward evolution, we begin to shift how we look at the situations in our lives. And then, was it Wayne Dyer said, change the way you look at things and the things you look at change? Yeah. So as we begin to look at a situation differently from a higher level of consciousness, the situation looks different. And therefore our response to it is different. And therefore the solution is easier to find for us. And so it's always this opportunity for us to look within and find the answers that we need. As I was looking up quotes from this, for this talk, I kept coming back to this book by Ernest, Living Without Fear, and I thought, well, this is really appropriate here. So in Living Without Fear, he says this, the infinite mind must contain an answer to every legitimate question. You could place legitimate with quality question. The infinite mind is not going to have an answer about why did this happen to me. It doesn't believe anything happened to you. It doesn't see you as a victim. It sees you as the perfection that it is. And so if we're asking legitimate questions, then the answers are going to be available. If I ask the question, how am I to grow in this situation? The answer is going to come to me. Lots of different ways. It comes to people in different ways, but the answers will come. If we are quiet enough and still enough and intentional enough about it, the answers will come to us in the silence of our own mind. The last chapter of this book is called An Answer to Every Problem. An answer to every problem. Spirit has an answer to every single problem that we have out there. We just need to ask the right questions to move through it. I love this quote here. This is at the end of that chapter. He says, the riddle of the universe is a paradox. The question is its own answer. For the mind that asks the question is also the mind that answers it. When we ask those important quality questions of ourselves, and we are quiet and listen, we are going to hear that voice. Now that voice is going to come through this mind, whether you have a capital M or a lowercase m with it. There is only this one mind. And the answers are available to us at all times through that one mind, through that consciousness. And as we do our spiritual practices and connect with it in consciousness, the answers are available. The question is its own answer. I truly believe that the question is much more powerful than the answer. I think when we can get to a state of spiritual discernment where we can ask a question, like those quality questions that I talked about, that take us out of that victim state of consciousness, then the answers are readily available. They just pop out. They just pop out, come to us very quickly. I know in my own practice, my own spiritual practice, I start each day with a question. I start each spiritual practice with a question. Generally, my question is, what do I need to know today? It's an open-ended question. It's certainly not a victim consciousness question. Probably more in the manifestor kind of question, but it can also be in the channel question too. What do I need to know? And Spirit always responds. I'm sometimes amazed at how quickly it responds to me through there. Figure out what your state of mind is. Figure out what level of consciousness you are asking those questions from. If there is an icky energy about it, my suggestion is that you move up higher in the level of consciousness and change that question around. Shift it around to something that feels uplifting and empowering instead of something that's going to keep you stuck in the situation. We all have challenges in our lives. Some of them are as minor as somebody speeding on the freeway, and some of them are life-challenging with our health and finances and relationships and all of those things that can be a little more traumatic. But the solution is the same. Shift the questions that we ask, and our answers will come through much easier, much more clearly, and much more readily for us. All right, let's take this into prayer. I invite our spiritual practitioners to stand, surround us with their consciousness, holding us. They hold us in prayer throughout the week, and it is a blessing to work with these beloveds. Looks like we have about half of them with us today, so that's wonderful. I appreciate your service. Justin isn't standing, but he's one of our practitioners also. It's hard to play the piano and stand, though, isn't it? I'd find it hard to do either one. All right, I just invite you to settle into this moment. If it works for you, close your eyes. I can't seem to pray without my eyes closed, but take in a nice breath. Feel that breath move into your body, centering you, grounding you. Notice the chair beneath you supporting you. You are safe and centered and grounded and protected right here and right now. All is well. And so in this attitude of peace and love and tranquility, I simply recognize that there is only one power, one presence, one divine creative love intelligence that has brought forth everything into existence so that it could experience life through each one of us. I know this presence as peace, and love, and joy, and balance. I know that this presence is always readily available to move into action into our lives. I know that it is flowing through us continuously and showing up as us in all that we are and all that we do. Because I know there's only one, I know that I am one with it. That creative love intelligence brought me into existence, creating me in its own image and likeness, and endowed me with all that it is. And as I know this is true for me, I know this is true for everyone. For we are all each that perfect emanation of a great and glorious love. And so knowing this, I simply speak my word of truth. I know that right now each one of us is on an ever upward spiraling journey of evolution, that our souls are unfolding in perfection and under grace. I know that each moment of each day is an opportunity for us to move further on that spiral, to clear away any limiting beliefs, any doubt or worry or fear. And just let that stuff go so that we can be more of that presence of the One, so that we feel it more easily, so that we see it more readily, and so that we experience it more frequently in our lives. I know that each one of us is blessed to be that perfect incarnation of the One. And I know that it is a blessing to our entire world. And I just give great thanks for this knowing. I'm so grateful to feel it, to see it, to experience it in everything that I am and everything that I do. And so I release this word into the law, into that creative mind that knows no lack or limitation, that is always unfolding for the highest and greatest good of all. I let it go and I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.